Hi everyone, and welcome back to my art channel, where you can learn or be inspired to let your creativity flourish. In this tutorial, I'm showing you the process of using shells and stones in your resin pieces. They really bring your coasters, trays and cake stands to another level. So I've ordered a gorgeous selection of glass stones, clear quartz and broken shells and little gold glass bits from Laura's Art Corner, and I really recommend you visit her online shop. She has the perfect selection of stones and glass, and if you're interested in geode art, you can find everything you need to create the druzy centers, and I will be using some of these for an upcoming tutorial on creating a geode style painting on canvas board. So I'm going to start off by adding these crushed turquoise shells into the mold. And then I'm going to add these prism stones that really add dimension to clear resin. Once cured, you can see all the different colours in the prisms dancing around in the light, and it's just so pretty. And now I'm just adding some gold-coated glass stones, and they come in two shades, a bright gold and a more subdued champagne gold. And personally, it's my favourite of the two. And so now I'm going to cover all the stones with some clear untinted resin. But then I remembered that it's probably best to add a layer of resin first and then add the stones. By adding the resin first, you avoid pockets of air underneath the stones that leave holes. So I'm adding the resin almost to the top of this mould, and then I'm going to start preparing my white and resin mix for the petals, and I'm going to be using Angel White epoxy paste. It's a highly concentrated paste, so a little goes a long way, and when I say a little, I mean a tiny amount is all you need for this technique. If you add too much of this white, what will happen is it will sink down to the bottom and you get those funky blobs instead of wispy petals. So usually in past tutorials I've used a drop of alcohol ink into the white, but for this technique I'm going to try it without, and spoiler alert, I can tell you it did work. If you find it easier to pipe these out, pull the mixture into a piping bag, cut the tip and pipe out your design. I'm going to go freestyle here, and I'm going to be using a stirring stick, and I'm just skimming the surface of the resin with the white. And you can do any pattern of petals that you like. You can even add layers for more depth. Before I do that, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of heat. You can use a heat gun or this torch lighter, and that's just to get rid of any surface bubbles before I add the white. So I'm going to once again hit this with a torch gun, but you can use a heat gun too. But if you do use a heat gun, go slow or you'll blow away the petals, and what you don't want is a solid white background. You need these petals to stay in shape as it cures. And what happens to these petals during curing is that they flow from the outside to the centre and spread out, and that's how they get their petal shape. And it's really so much fun to watch them transform. It can take up to 2 hours for these petals to form, so be patient if after pouring they haven't yet bloomed yet. It will happen. And now I'm adding a candle base using this triangle mould, and I'm going to use the exact same technique as before. I'm going to add the stones and then a petal background. But as you can see for this one, I remembered to add a layer of resin first, and this really helped avoid as many bubbles as you can underneath. And for the gold glass, since there is no center point, I'm just going to add some of the gold glass randomly across the coaster so that they match the cake stands. And I will be adding a glass candle holder on the top of this, but you could easily make these into regular coasters and make as many as you need. And for the white petals, since this coaster is not round and I'm doing triangular petals, starting from the middle, and then I'm adding rows underneath for depth. And you can see the one on the right is already starting to bloom. And ideally, wait 15 minutes after mixing your resin before adding your petals. This will give the resin time to thicken up a little. So let them cure overnight and then you can unmold. I've made 2 other cake stands off camera using the exact same method as previously, and just look at those petals. They've really spread out and created a flower motif. It's just so cool. And I especially love the shells in that gorgeous turquoise shade. It's just so summer inspired. In fact, this isn't going into my shop for sale. This is going with us on holiday this year. And if you look up close, you can see the prism stones. They just add a little pop to the other stones. It's just gorgeous. And now I'm going to add the hardware, and I got these from Amazon. And they're sold for 3 layers, but if you prefer, you can make this into a 2-layer stand or even a 1-layer stand. They work great for all options. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful or just fun to watch. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave me a comment on this video, and do join me over on Instagram. Take care, my arty friends, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!